All right, well, welcome everyone. It's good to see people back on Zoom for this boozy program. We love doing these with Brenda. They're really fun. And we're really blessed to have Noah back, our mixologist from Slocum and Sons, waving. And yeah, with that, I am going to turn it over to Brenda.
Hi, everyone. I just want to say thank you all for joining us. I am going to leave all the good stuff up to the experts, but I just wanted to take a minute to say I really appreciate you supporting the store and supporting the Wallingford Library. We have a lot of fun when we do these things together, and tonight should prove that. So I'm going to turn it over to the experts, the book expert and the mixology expert.
That would be Noah.
That would be Noah. Cindy and Noah.
Noah, you're prepping and I'm going to get going. Is that what?
Yeah.
Would be good for you?
What I'm going to prepare, when the book is introduced, is a very simple cocktail. You don't have to pay too close attention to this one. If you know how to make a mimosa, you know how to make an apple cider mimosa. It's basically combining a couple ingredients together. So I'll make that, and I'll tell you what I did after. You can introduce the book, and then, well, I'm the sole one tasting tonight, so I'll tell you how it came out.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
For those of you who don't know, Cindy, our dear Cindy, is in England right now, which is why seems so far away tonight.
I'm with you all in spirit and in soul, but I am across the pond, as they say, and I'm determined to stay up for the entire program. Okay, so as Noah just suggested, the first cocktail, and I hope everyone got the beautiful list of the cocktail pairings. If it wasn't so past my bedtime, I would definitely be making several of these, and I plan to make them when I get home. The first one is an apple cider mimosa. And so I'm going to pair it not with the Cider House rules, as Tom Smith suggested, which of course would be an excellent pairing, but it is a long book and it was a little too obvious. So I'm going for something slightly more autumnal. Leah, if you could reveal the first book. It is called The Simplicity of Cider, and it is by Amy Reichert, who's probably best known for her book, The Coincidence of Coconut Cake. This one is set in Wisconsin at a cider farm, an apple orchard that makes cider. That is a fifth generation farm that has fallen on some hard times. And it is about the young woman who is determined to make the cider farm work. Her older brother who really wants to sell it. Her father is aging and is struggling to handle it when in comes a single dad and his young son who are fleeing a very difficult situation back east. So there is interesting stuff about cider making. There is love interest. There is some dark stuff. There is family complications. There's all the sort of typical stuff you would want in an autumn novel. And so I thought it would be a lovely thing to read while you're sipping Noah's lovely little cocktail, which he's just made. Look how nice that looks.
See it?
Look at that.
Oh,
delicious.
Yeah, so like I said, if you know how to make a mimosa, you know how to make a cider mimosa. It's just, it's a local apple cider from here in Connecticut called Lyman Orchards. We all might know that pretty famous spot for cider and pies and apples. And that's a childhood visit of mine. When I was a kid, my grandmother always used to take me up there. We'd play golf at Lyman Orchards and then, buy a couple of chicken pot pies, some apple cider donuts, and go home with some cider. So it's nostalgic for me. And this is just apple cider with Mianetto Brut Prosecco. And so it's kind of to taste, really. You have a recipe there, I believe. But in reality, it's however you like it. Like mostly, I like this drink like I like regular orange juice mimosas with very little orange juice and lots of Prosecco, lots of champagne.
Gee, that's a surprise.
So,
Lovely.
yeah, so that's really it. Low alcohol, you know, but really, really high in flavor. It's actually really delicious with the I dipped it in a cinnamon sugar rim. Really, really nice.
And a little apple garnish there on the top.
Yeah, and then just a slice of apple, just a little bit of cinnamon sugar there.
Mm-hmm. Fancy. Moving on.
All right. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Next.
So the next one, this was one of my most exciting finds when I was coming up with the book pairings for this program. The next book is a maple old fashioned, which again sounds so good, I can't even tell you. And I stumbled across a book called The Maple Syrup Mafia, A History of Organized Crime in Canada. And you say, no, how can there possibly be? If there was any country in the world where you would think there would not be any organized crime, it would be Canada. And lo, there's organized crime in Canada. This book by Greg Thompson delves into the completely ignored but actually real and bloody world of Canadian mobs, and most specifically, and I loved this, the Rizzuto family, the most powerful mob family in Canada that has ties to the legendary 5 mafia families in America. This is just, if you're interested in stories about the mob, and I know a lot of our patrons are, this sort of true crime stuff, and you thought you had this sort of perception of Canada, you will find out that you are wrong. And I love the title, especially because it's a little bit tongue-in-cheek. And this is a book that is definitely worth reading if those things interest you.
All right, now we've got the maple old fashioned, and if everyone knows what an old fashioned is, it's one of the original cocktails ever produced. It was just whiskey, bitters, and sugar, and historically a sugar cube. And then you would take the sugar cube, you put it in the bottom of the glass, and you'd put a couple dashes of bitters on it, and then you take the muddler and you'd stir it around and make a paste. Then you'd put in the whiskey and the ice and stir, and then garnish with orange and a cherry. We're going to cut out the ice cube for the autumnal sort of entry of 100% organic maple syrup. Unfortunately, I don't have a local one tonight. This is just the one from BJ's, but it is organic, pure maple syrup. So, what I'm going to do, you don't need much, as we know, a very sweet ingredient, and roughly a bar spoon, which really is like this one here is like a teaspoon. Most bar spoons are roughly a teaspoon.
Good. Are you done?
So
That is a little bit.
that'll be the first ingredient in the bottom of the glass. And then on top of that, this is Angostura bitters, the classic cocktail bitters. And then just 2 dashes right in there like that. And then we're going to use High West bourbon tonight from Park City, Utah. It's a blend of a couple of different aged whiskeys. That's a pretty old fashioned looking bottle there. That's kind of why I selected it for this one here. And we're going to measure this out because we want it to be balanced. We're going to use 2 ounces. And then take that bar spoon with the maple syrup on it and just mix it around, make sure everything's nicely incorporated and dissolved. And then I've got one of these attractive large ice cubes. Drop that right in. And you'll notice the recipe says water. Well, you could use a little bit of water because dilution is necessary here, but that's what we stir for. We just stir that cocktail like this for maybe 10 or 12 or 15 seconds, something like that. And then that introduces the dilution that we're looking for. Pretty simple sort of concept, but it's overlooked so often. And then when you get a drink like that is not properly made or not properly diluted tastes too boozy, too strong. It should really be sort of soft and balanced. You should taste the whiskey, the sweetener, and the bitters, not just booze. So nice dilution there. And then I've got a veggie peeler and an orange here. I'm going to take a long peel of orange. I'm going to take it zest side out, not pith side, even though that's a nice peeler. I don't have any pith, but if you were to have pith, you want it facing you. And then on the surface of the drink, we just give it a little squeeze, just like that. And we rub it around the outside of the glass here and drop it in. And the other garnish here would be Luxardo maraschino cherries if I had them, but I lent them out to someone and I don't have cherries in the house. So I do apologize for that, but a great garnish here would be that that classic garnish for an old fashioned would be a cherry. Cheers.
That looks so good.
And believe it or not, a teaspoon of maple syrup to 2 ounces of whiskey. It's the perfect, you can adjust to taste, but I taste whiskey, a little sweetness, a little bit of bitters, and it's really balanced. And then beautiful orange aroma from that orange peel.
Oh, Brenda's put in the chat that it's going to be her Thanksgiving cocktail. That is a great Thanksgiving cocktail.
Oh yeah, and you know, you saw me make that you know, for one cocktail. That's with the maple syrup and the absence of actually making a paste from a sugar cube. You can make this in a pitcher, and then you could pour it on ice and melt it, or you could add, let's say, 20% dilution to whatever that batch is, and then have people just pour it on the ice and go. And then you leave out some orange peels, leave out some cherries, and it's a nice autumn cocktail.
That's great. That is great. Okay.
And please,
Anyone?
any questions?
Yeah.
Zoom is on my phone and it's about 4 feet away from me. So if anybody wants to unmute and ask a question about any of the products, the process, why we do this, why we don't do certain things, we could talk about technique if you want. Feel free. I won't be able to see it, but if someone can help me, you know, identify that person and go on mute and ask a question, I'm happy to answer it.
Yep. We can also, people can also put stuff in the chat, Noah, and we can read it out. I'm monitoring the chat.
Okay,
while we're
great.
going.
Excellent.
So.
Thank you.
Right. So for people who did not print out the recipes, Brenda has copies at the store. We have copies at the library, and Leah put a link to the recipe list that includes the ingredients and the steps in the chat. So you're covered a bunch of different ways. I have my beautiful, beautiful cardstock copy right here with a lot of notes scribbled on it. Okay, next drink, next book. We're going from apples to maple to pumpkin, and as we do our autumnal mood. The next drink is a pumpkin apple shandy, and here I went all cozy. Look at that cover alone. It just screams autumn at you. This is my cozy offering. The Bake Shop at Pumpkin and Spice. This is by 3 best-selling authors, Donna Kaufman, Kate Angel, and Allison Charles. Each one has done a little bit of an autumnal romance story. This is set in a fictional town in Maine that goes all in on Halloween, and it is centered around a bake shop called Bella Luna's Bake Shop. And there's a big Halloween parade. There's all kinds of costumes for children and adults, and the holiday treats spark romance for 3 of the residents of the town, which is called Moonbright, Maine, if you can handle all of this cozy autumnal charm. And so if you're in the mood for this kind of, you know, have a shandy to hand, wear a sweater and settle in under a blanket with cozy Maine romance, then this would be a good book to go to. Over to you, Noah, to show us the
Okay.
drink to make.
So does everyone know what a shandy is? I'll assume you don't. How's that sound? A shandy is a really refreshing summer drink. Now you see it canned and you know, finished off. Like Narragansett from Rhode Island is a beer company that makes a shandy, and a couple other companies make shandy. And essentially what it is, it's a light lager and lemonade.
It's
Sometimes
delicious.
sometimes a pinch of salt. So ice cold beer, ice cold lemonade, a pinch of salt, and it's an excellent summer sipper, you know.
Super refreshing, super yummy. Goes down
Right,
really easily.
Right. That's like reserved for those like 105-degree days, you know, with
Yep.
100% humidity. It's
Yep.
incredibly, and but it gets you very drunk because you drink it like juice. And then it's you know, it's you know, at least 50 to 70% beer still. So, anyway, I'm not going to make the whole batch, but this is well, this is a Chemex actually, but it serves as a pitcher tonight. And essentially what that is we're going to take a pumpkin beer, right? And then we're going to take apple cider. And let me see what the garnishes are here. Yeah, apple slice if you'd like, but that's really it. It's pretty simple. So we're gonna try. I'm just gonna put a splash in here, but you have the recipe there for a group, and it's kind of to taste. So I'm gonna say I like more beer than apple cider, so maybe half the can of beer. Like I said, this is not too much of an education since it's kind of what we call a hack. You just pour 2 things together, and really you've got the recipe, but it is sort of the taste. So I would say about half of that. And then, you know, I might pour this in a pint glass, of course, mix it around halfway full. And then in this case, I'm actually going to add a little bit of ice and stir it around. And then here, I think we could do the same kind of thing we did with apple slices, and just kind of use those as a garnish, or just kind of place on top.
Noah, in the recipe, Leah, am I looking at it right? The recipe, I think, includes bourbon. Do we not put bourbon in this one?
Oh yeah, you know what? We did actually add spirits. I apologize for that. So yeah, no, I missed that. I'm sorry about that.
Can you do it either way?
Yeah, you can do it either way. I mean, a shandy would typically not include spirits, so this is kind of a play on a shandy then. And in this case, at that, I would probably, this is also kind of to taste. I'm going to add 1 ounce of the Litchfield vanilla bourbon. For those of you who don't know Litchfield Distillery, you certainly should. It's a Connecticut-based distillery in Litchfield, right on the Bantam line, and it's family owned by 3 brothers, the Bakers, and they make whiskey from all Connecticut grain, distilled on site and aged on site. They've got a great tasting room. They're great people, great family, great guys, and they're great partners to us at Slocum. And this one, they make some flavored bourbons. I'm not sure if you could see it, but there's a vanilla bean in the bottle. So it's their straight batcher's bourbon with a vanilla bean infused in the bourbon.
Mm.
So in this case, I used 1 ounce. I'm going to stir that through and then taste it again. It really can only be better.
Brenda, am I remembering correctly that we did when we did the Kentucky Derby tasting, we had them?
Yes, that's one of the ones that we sampled. And I still have that one at the store. And I also have it in the little 50 ml sizes for people who might want to try it without, having to buy a big bottle. The little bottles don't have the vanilla bean in them, but that's the only difference.
Sounds like a terrific drink. And yes, the shandy, I think the shandy may be local to my part of the world at the moment.
Yeah, that did make it better for the record.
Noted. Sally said, Litchfield bourbons are great. And if you go there, they give a nice tour and tasting. And
sure do.
Nancy said, OMG, we love, all caps, the shandy. So that one is going down smooth, Noah.
Yeah, that's definitely a home run. And the vanilla bourbon, I think, is the key to that, because that just added a whole different element right there. And it kind of tastes like a pumpkin pie now.
What could be bad? Maybe that's your Thanksgiving after dinner drink, Brenda.
Oh, yes, that's dessert.
That goes with dessert. That goes with dessert.
I'll tell you, it's not that sweet though. I mean, it would serve as a lighter type of dessert. I guess it would pair fairly well with a pumpkin pie, but it's dry enough with a little bit of bitterness from the beer to be an aperitif as well.
Awesome. Okay, next core ingredient, next drink is cranberries. We are just hitting all the high notes of the autumnal season. Here is my mystery book for this book and booze pairing. The drink is cranberry mimosa, and the book is Cranberry Crimes by Jessica Beck. This is the 31st entry in a long-standing mystery series called, you might guess from the cover, the Donut Mysteries. There is a Donut Hearts coffee shop in North Carolina owned by Suzanne Hart, and somehow or other in more than 31 books, something happens to kill someone related to the donut coffee shop or someone who has asked her for something. In this case, the owner is commissioned at the last minute to make donuts for a longtime customer's birthday party. But the birthday person dies before the party can even begin, and the donut coffee shop owner and her buddies go into action, as those amateur sleuths tend to do, behind the scenes to solve the crime. I just got a kick out of the fact of this cover, and if you like me are a fan of long mysteries where you can really get to know the characters and try to figure out who done it, this is a good series for you to know about. And this may be, although I change my mind every time I look at the recipe list, this may be my favorite of the drinks that Noah's about to make.
So I cheated again because this one, it couldn't be easier to make that another mimosa where you just combine a couple of ingredients. And here we have cranberry juice and prosecco, and going to garnish with a little bit of crushed cranberry to the bottom of the glass there. And then they kind of come up and they float to the surface. It's really pretty. I don't know if you could see that. And then they end up floating. But important part.
That looks like the holidays to me, that drink.
Yeah, for sure. And then I've got this garnish for something different, but of course, like something like this is the rosemary from my garden, but something like that. I mean, that's sort of Christmas right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, make sure that the two ingredients are very, very, very cold. mine are a little bit warm sitting here, but they'd be on ice, you know, the whole time, and you'd have very, very cold juice and very cold Prosecco.
Delicious.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, it's really tasty.
Brenda put a note in the comments that I was actually, Brenda, I'm glad you did, because I was thinking about it. If you want to make one of these cocktails that has pumpkin beer, buy the beer before it disappears, because chances are once Halloween is over, the pumpkin beer is going to go away
Half
and
price.
segue into other things, or be half price. That's right. Grab it while you can.
They usually don't last long enough to be half price. So
Yeah, I know.
I've already got winter beer in my store because I've run out of pumpkin in some of the brands.
Yeah,
Wow.
they come in now, like they're on the Starbucks schedule. They come in
So early.
you know,
In
early
August,
August.
yeah.
Okay, next drink is the Smoky Harvest Apple Cider Margarita. And here I went for a classic, the Master and Margarita. If you haven't heard about this book, it's actually, it's a book that is probably well worth taking a look at in 2022. It was written by Mikhail Bulgakov in the 1930s, and it is a absolute lampooning of life in Russia in that decade. But it was censored. First of all, it was not allowed to be published at all, and then finally appeared in a censored edition in the 1960s. And has only more recently been fully published as he originally wrote it. It is he skewers politics and art and religion and really every aspect of Russian society under Stalin. But it is about, you know, like all classics, it's about good and evil and guilt and innocence and freedom and oppression. And it is probably not as well known as some of the other great Russian classics, but I think it's as timely today as it has ever been. And so I picked it because this drink sounds like the most oomphy of all the drinks that Noah is making. To me, it did. And so I figured I should have an oomphy book to go with it.
Yeah, it does have the most ABV, very likely, since it's got a couple of different liqueurs in it.
ABV is the more professional way of saying oomphy.
Yeah, right. Alcohol by volume. Yeah, so we're gonna take this one is worth showing the process because it's not like two ingredients together, and I have faith that all of us can do the 2 ingredient thing. But this is a little bit more complicated. And we're gonna do 2 different, we're gonna rim the glass, not just with traditional, salt. You might like salt or you don't like salt, or you like half salt or quarter salt or whatever. I like half salt myself. So I'm gonna do a half salt rim here. So just a little bit of lime. And I like just to kind of do it on the outside of the glass. And then I'm going to go into the cinnamon sugar and the salt and mix the 2 together, kind of like that, but only half. I think it's a little bit overwhelming when it's on both sides. That's my opinion, but you can make it how you see fit. So this is essentially a classic, margarita ingredient list, because you're going to have lime juice, you're going to have an agave spirit. Here we have mezcal tonight. Mezcal is from not Jalisco, where tequila is from. It's made from a different type of agave. This one is made from espadín, and it's made in Oaxaca, not Jalisco, a different place. It's kind of like saying, what's a good example? Bordeaux versus Burgundy, or something like that. It's got a regional specificity to to its, sort of legal definition. And so Dos Hombres is a brand. I don't know if we all know the series from maybe a decade ago or better, called Breaking Bad, but it was a pretty famous kind of dark drama with two actors, Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul. And they were the stars of that show that became pretty famous, and they became friends and they became mezcal lovers together. And when they retired from that gig, they decided to join forces and start a mezcal brand. And this is sourced from an artisanal producer in Oaxaca, and it's owned exclusively by them, those two actors. So
Noah, there's a question. There's a question.
Yeah, sure.
Sorry, there's a question in the chat. If you could explain the difference between mezcal and tequila.
Okay, so tequila is made from Weber blue agave. Okay, so that's a type of agave. This is made from espadín, which is a different variety of agave. And most tequilas, almost all tequila, let's back up. The way you have to make tequila or an agave spirit is the agave piña, or the root ball of the agave. All the spiky leaves are cut off, and then that giant piña, that root that's above ground mostly, it's quartered or cut into even 8 pieces, and it's roasted in basically an autoclave, and it's steamed to cook it. And then from there they press it and they get agave nectar, and then they ferment it and they get a base alcohol ridden pulp to then distill into tequila. The way that it works with mezcal is that same espadín looks very similar to blue agave, but has different flavor qualities. That is also harvested, quartered, roasted. But the difference here is it's cooked in an underground charcoal pit. It's covered with wet vegetation. It's covered with wet burlap and weighted down with stones in this giant burnt out charcoal fire. And then 2 or 3 days later, they're fully cooked. They've taken on a very smoky quality. So we have a what looks like a very clear spirit. It is. It's not aged, but it's super smoky. It's as smoky as certain Isla or island scotches are. So anyway, that would be the basic difference. But I assume the question may have related to stylistically, flavor-wise. Agave from Jalisco, or for tequila, sort of citrusy, sort of fruity, a little bit earthy. Mezcal is all about smoke. Smells like a bit of a campfire, but there's some like orchard fruit in there, and there's some tropical fruit in the nose. And almost, like a faint, pleasant, medicinal iodine quality in the background that some very famous scotches are known for. So it's a great winter cocktail ingredient because it's smoky and it's even a little savory. It's not on that citrusy end. It's more on the savory, earthy side. Was that far too much information? It could
No,
have
that
been.
was great.
Okay.
That was great.
Yeah, so those are the differences between tequila and mezcal. So I've lost my train of thought, so I'm gonna read the recipe again. Yeah, so okay, so then this one's easy. We're gonna do this all in a pint glass. We're gonna do 2 ounces of the smoky mezcal. Then we're gonna use the orange liqueur, which is actually a rum-based Creole shrub from Martinique. This is called Rum Clemence Creole shrub.
Mm.
And all that really means in this case, it's an orange liqueur from a French-owned island, and in fact, this is from a rum agricole producer, which is a production area similar to the French wine law that governs that wine industry. It's got its own appellation in Martinique. It's actually the sugarcane growing area is monitored by the French government. So we're about 1/2 ounce of that.
As Brenda put in the chat, if that sounds very cool, but if you just have Grand Marnier at home or anything like that handy, that works, right?
Yeah, right. But remember, I'm from the distributor, so I highly recommend.
It looks
Just
and I see why you do, but
Yeah, no,
just
I'm teasing. I'm teasing. If you have that, great. But if now you've seen the label of
Yep.
Rum Clement, if you ever see that out, it's an excellent high quality rum, rum-based orange liqueur.
that sounds great.
All right, so then from there, yeah, so we're gonna use about 1/2 ounce of lime juice. And then what's our star ingredient tonight?
Apple cider, lime and
Apple
orchards,
cider.
lime and orchards.
That's it. So we're gonna use we're gonna make up a fair amount of this with 4 ounces here. This one will be shaken. So see, I didn't add the ice first. This is a technique part to speak about here. I didn't add the ice first because I blabbed and I blabbed and I blabbed. And then if that was sitting on ice, if the glass was full of ice to start, it would have been diluting the whole time and we wouldn't have control of the dilution. So now we add ice. We pop on the Boston shaker. We read the recipe again and realize that we left out the maple syrup, but that's okay. So sorry about that. These aren't all my original cocktails this evening, so I didn't memorize them today. And then just really shake it through once or twice, and that's it there. Notice I shook for probably 5 times as long as an average bartender. And I know I don't have a bar full of people and a restaurant full of people, but the drink suffers if you don't dilute it. It's completely unbalanced. So anyway, we're going to take fine mesh now and strain through fine mesh. I'm going to show you why in a second. All right, so after all that violent shaking, we got chipped ice. See that? And so we're going to strain it out because ice is the lightest ingredient in that cocktail. And what's going to happen is it's going to float to the surface. And it's going to be the first sip, and it's going to close down all the aromatics. So we want to taste the cocktail and smell the cocktail. We don't want that first sip to be watery. So we strain off that broken up ice. And we also strain the drink first and then add ice so we don't leave any drink in the shaker. So This one, you'll learn a little bit, I think, this style of drink here. And help me out with the apple slice rosemary cinnamon stick. So I do have a couple of cinnamon sticks. This is awfully seasonal. And then what else do we say here? So we're going to use rosemary in the last two. Good thing I got a nice long piece here. And that kind of goes on. And look at how festive that one is.
That really looks good, I have to say.
Yeah, so this will be a, let's taste it. Wow, it smells great already. That the cinnamon stick and the rosemary on top, that makes a big difference. If the rosemary is not from your garden, when you buy rosemary from the store, take it and you know, before you garnish the drink, smack it on your hand a few times and wake it up, or roll it around in your hands and wake it up. And then when it's on the surface of the drink, obviously you can't eat it. It's not there for that. It's not going to flavor the drink anymore. It's all about aromatics. Well, that one's my favorite because I really like mezcal. And I guess I like high ABV too. And you can get playful with the garnish here. I mean, star anise is a nice seasonal, a pretty autumnal ingredient. That would work really, really nice.
Terrific.
Oh, actually, you know what? I had one more little trick.
Oh, uh-oh.
Yeah, so we got a box of matches here.
Looks advanced already.
Yeah, now that's pretty simple. Cinnamon does a really good job at sort of becoming flammable, not in a dangerous way, but just in a sort of a fun way. So I'm going to shut the lights off and we're going to see how this works. And then I'm going to light the match and I'm going to shake the cinnamon on top. And it's usually very, very pretty. So we're going to find out if that is going to work. Give me 1 second if it's okay. I think this will be fun. So light the match over the drink. Oh, I extinguished it. Let's try again. Maybe get a bigger flame going here. See, can you see that? I'm gonna make a mess of my table here, but
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so if you have it in a little bit more of a pointed shaker, that was kind of one of those oversized spice shakers. Let me turn the light back on here. But if you have it, even if you have a pinch of it in your hand, or a smaller, more controlled shaker, that works really, really nice and kind of creates some flair. There you go. That's my party trick for tonight.
That was very cool. Who knew? Who knew?
I did.
Okay. You knew, and now we all know. You cannot have a cocktail list without gin, in my opinion.
That's true. I'm with you there.
See? And so the next drink is a pomegranate gin and tonic, which just seriously sounds so great. And this was my easiest pairing of them all, because there's a terrific book that is not that well known called Traveling with Pomegranates. This is nonfiction, and it is by Sue Monk Kidd and her daughter Ann Kidd Taylor. Sue Monk Kidd is best known for her novel The Secret Life of Bees, and in the late 1990s, she and her daughter Anne were each sort of at a crossroads in their lives, and they took a trip together to Greece, Turkey, and France. specifically to visit sacred places in those 3 countries. Sue is trying to reconnect with her daughter, who has just graduated from college, and they've grown apart, and she is struggling with a novel that will become The Secret Life of Bees. And her daughter is not sure, now that she's graduated from college, what to do with her life. And so the 2 of them go on this trip together to be in these sacred spaces, to reconnect with each other, and to try to find their next paths separately. And it's a really, really interesting book by 2 very, very good writers. And so I thought I would share it with you all. A lot of people have read Sue Monk Kidd, but probably have not read this one. And if you're interested in sacred spaces in Greece, Turkey, and France, and don't see getting there anytime soon, this is a good armchair travel book too. And pomegranates are just great. So
They are, and here comes the season for lots of great pomegranate usage. So the next one is going to be the pomegranate gin and tonic. And so this is really a sort of pretty drink, I'd imagine. Here we're going to add some pomegranate seeds in here, and the drink calls for crushed ice, which is an option if you want to crush ice, but I think it probably kind of over dilutes a little. So I mean, small ice like this would sort of work, and then we'll add the gin on top of that and stir it together. So I'm going to use Broker's London Dry Gin, a classic London Dry at 94 proof, real juniper forward, and very much an English gentleman. You see that bowler cap?
Why, that's great. Look at
Yeah.
that. I love that.
Yeah, this is one of my all-time favorite gins. It's such a value. It's still family owned. It's the 2 Dawson brothers. They were British bankers, and they modeled it after the British businessman, an English gentleman with the bowler cap. This is it's made at the same distillery as where the first run of Beefeater gin was made, and it's in a John and Dorr company still. It's a copper pot still that's very, very famous, and for making some really, really world-class spirits. So we're going to use a bit of this for the gin and tonic, and you've got a recipe there, but I'm drinking this one tonight. So I generally eyeball the gin and tonic. This is one of the very few drinks I don't measure. So 2.5 ounces, something like that. We got the pomegranate seeds in there. We'll stir them through. They start to float. That looks pretty on the bottom. And then we're going to use a high quality tonic. This is Fever Tree. I do not distribute this one, but I love it. This is great. And top that just about there. And then we've got the pomegranate juice to color it. And you can go ahead and follow the recipe, but I'm going to do it to my taste tonight. Oh, and look at that color. Beautiful.
Oh, so gorgeous.
And then stir up from there gently to incorporate the juice and the gin, but not flatten the tonic. Gentle like that. Okay, and then maybe a couple more pomegranate seeds on top, and then that rosemary skewer. And that is pretty seasonal, I would say.
That is awesome.
Yep. That's good.
We are all watching you taste
Yeah,
enviously.
yeah. And I'm gonna get silly in a second because I haven't had dinner yet. So yeah, and you know, a lime wedge is, you know, to your taste. I mean, that, you know, this would look nice, but honestly, if I were to make this, I probably wouldn't add the lime. I might add the juice of the lime, but I might not leave the wedge. A lime wedge to me is kind of clunky type of garnish for a cocktail. If you've got pomegranate seeds and a rosemary skewer, why do you need a
Yeah.
lime wedge?
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. But I mean, oil, great. Juice, great for the cocktail and mix it up. But I would keep it simple and festive like that for the season.
Terrific. Okay, last one, a New England daiquiri. And for this, I had a little fun, because I always like to finish strong. And I want to share with you this book called Girly Drinks, A World History of Women and Alcohol by Mallory O'Meara. And the reason this book came to mind is because a strawberry daiquiri, not a New England daiquiri, but a strawberry daiquiri, is the quintessential girly drink. And this book is about the fact that although alcohol has been at the center of culture and social life all over the world for as long back as anyone knows, somewhere along the way, drinking became a gendered act. And there are drinking places for men where women weren't allowed to go, and certain drinks that women weren't supposed to have, and certain drinks that were much more appropriate for women than for men. So this book, which won a James Beard Award in 2022, earlier this year, is the history of female drinkers, female distillers, female brewery owners, all who have been involved in creating and consuming booze, from all the way back to back to the Roaring 20s and up to today. So I just think this is a terrific book, and a segue into a New England daiquiri.
Yeah, so that sounds like an interesting book, actually. That to me sounds like one that I'd really like to read. But I got to tell you, I have not I've not really known too many of the women in my life that haven't kind of wanted a stiff drink. Maybe that's where I get it. My grandmother died at 101 years old, and she was like a rye press drinker. She was like a VO on the rocks with unfiltered Camels kind of drinker. There was nothing ever
Awesome.
girly across her lips. And I'll tell you, maybe I gravitated to my wife that way. She drinks bourbon, and we have a Friday night. This time of year, we have a Friday night Manhattan, and she's very much a whiskey girl as well. But all kind of tongue in cheek aside, my girly drinks got a bad rap because they were oftentimes classics that got bastardized by poor bartending, and they ended up being confectionery drinks, or they ended up being mixed with concentrated artificial syrups in a big blender, and
Right.
somebody pulled a handle and served a strawberry daiquiri. Not to say that that's not like a refreshing thing on a hot day or on a beach. Oh, sure. But a daiquiri is one of those original classics that is 3 ingredients. Okay. 3 ingredients: the base spirit, the sugar, and the citrus. So the classics are classics for many different reasons. They're often balanced, and they're simple to make, and they're delicious. And that's why they kind of stay in the lineup. So when you hear daiquiri and you think banana, strawberry, out of a machine, frozen, it couldn't be farther from the classic, which is white rum, fresh squeezed lime juice, and simple syrup. That's it. Or really, in the islands, it's usually sugar, like sugarcane juice, fresh sugarcane juice. But anyway, we're gonna make a version of a daiquiri that is 3 simple ingredients. This is fresh squeezed lime juice. We're back to one of the other star ingredients tonight, the maple syrup, and the Mad River Maple Cask Rum. So this is a distillery up in Warren, Vermont, making bourbon, rye, a couple of different rums. This is a Demerara rum distilled right in Vermont and then aged in a barrel that once contained maple syrup. So this is a maple cask rum by Mad River Distillers in Warren, Vermont, a tiny little family-owned micro distillery producing really great spirits. So we're gonna take a cocktail glass and get it ready. We're gonna do 2 ounces of that maple cask rum, 1 ounce of the fresh squeezed lime juice, always fresh, always fresh squeezed, and then 1 ounce of, again, my taste tonight, I'm gonna do 3/4, but just roughly 3/4.
How does an ounce of maple syrup compare to a teaspoon that you've been doing in the other?
Well, it's quite sweet, but we added a full ounce of lime juice.
Yeah.
And we want this drink to be, sort of sweet and sour. So the ingredients go in first, the ice on top. And hopefully when you make this drink, you didn't do like, tricep workout, because we do need lots of dilution in this drink. So we need to shake for quite a while. So if you need a restroom break, now is the time. See, what I wait for is on a shaker like this, for there to be frost on the shaker. That's when it's properly diluted. There's no frost yet, so. So a simple drink, but a little laborious. Frost on the tin. That's what you're looking for. And because we shook and crushed a bunch of ice, we are going to strain with the mesh strainer. So that goes like this into a cocktail glass. Once again, let me show you all that flavor crushing crushed ice. This is a sign of bad bartending, people. Even though people say, "Oh, I like the ice. I crunch it in my teeth." No, not good. And then that's it. Easy drink. 3 ingredients. A little bit of shaking involved to make it really balanced, and then a classic lime wheel.
Wow. Wow.
And that's a New England daiquiri because it's a Vermont-based company. You could call it a maple daiquiri or whatever, but cheers.
Brenda shared in the chat that she's been to the distillery and that their product is high quality and she carries the rum. And I have to say that just looks dynamite.
That's an original cocktail I made many years ago when we signed up Mad River Distillers for distribution. And I've had that drink on 35, 40 different menus in the state of Connecticut in the fall and in the winter. I mean, this drink, it goes on the menu in October. It doesn't leave until, May or something like that. But it really is necessary to shake it and get that good dilution. I've not tried to blend it. And I did talk a lot of smack about, frozen drinks, but this would be one that would lend itself to being made in a blender if, you want to try that.
Even though it pains you to say.
It does, but there's a time and a place for blender cocktails. Not usually, not at my house. But anyway,
Noted.
yeah, that's the lineup tonight. I got to say that the pairings with the books sounded really nice, really appropriate, very accurate. I had fun doing this as I did last time. I don't know if we got returning guests this evening.
We do.
Good.
We have a great following for this program. And yeah, I have to say, I said this last time you did this, but these drinks all sound so good, Noah. They really do.
Oh, yeah, great. No, I'm glad to maybe, expose people to some new things. And then a big part of what I do on a daily basis, in the Connecticut market is also show people a little technique to make their drinks better. And, one drink at a time, kind of fixing the terrible bartending that has gone on for many years,
You
We're-
make
we're
it
getting
look
better.
easy, actually.
We're-
Yeah.
we're getting better. There's a lot of places that are making really, really good drinks. And I got into this business 10 years ago, and it was in its infancy, and where it's come light years from where it once was. So
The
anyway,
comment in the chat that this was very informative and she can't wait to try and love this program. Thanks so much.
Great.
Leah's gonna send the book list out to everyone tomorrow. I did not put any books on the list that aren't available somewhere in the catalog, not to worry. Lots of thank yous, Noah, in the chat.
great. Any
Thank you.
questions? Were there any questions or anything for me? I don't want to leave anybody out.
Anyone have any last questions for Noah? Looks like you've explained everything well. Oh, favorite mezcal. Tom wants to know your favorite mezcal.
Oh, Dos Hombres, of course. No, my favorite mezcal. Oh, well, if you won't repeat this to anybody, you just take this and put it in your back pocket. The Del Maguey mezcals are tremendously good. And another producer that's really, really excellent that's in our book is a distillery called Amaras, Amara S, Amaras, and they make a couple of single wildly foraged mezcals. So we carry like a Cupriata, Tobala, and a Madre Quiche, those are very fascinating ones because they're not cultivated. So they they take, they go into the mountains with donkeys and hike the mountains, and they find a wild tobala or a wild madraquiche agave, and then they hack it to pieces, cut the piña, strap it to the donkey, and come back down the mountain. That's why they're notably expensive, 3 or 4. So Espadín can be cultivated in rows in a farm, and then these wildly foraged ones are more expensive because of the labor involved in the harvest. So Del
Fantastic.
Maguey, I would say, and Amaras.
And Tom, who asked the question, said muchas gracias.
De nada.
Joellen said they made 2 drinks and said thanks. So not
Awesome.
everyone can keep up, but it sounds like everyone was trying some of it. So that's great.
Yeah, it's hard to make that many drinks if you're not having a party. I'm going to have a party with myself in a second.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Brenda. Thank you, Noah. Thanks for putting this all together. That was really
Pleasure.
fun. And with
My
that, I think
pleasure.
let's call it a night because I think some of us are a little toasted. So